All right guys, this video I'm going to talk about how do you set up this welder to actually get ready to weld. There's a couple dials here in front, there's an on-off button. How do we work that stuff? How do I know what to set those dials to? Well, it really depends on a couple things. The thickness of metal that you're actually going to weld being the most important. Now, even with just a basic tape measure that's reading to 1/16, I can take my piece of metal, which is the same stuff we're using in class, and I can measure the thickness of it. Now, if I'm pretty accurate with my 1/16 and I take my time and read it, I can see that this is 3/16 of an inch thick. You guys will generally be welding 1/8 to 3/16. Thinner stuff is actually a lot more difficult than thicker stuff. Thicker stuff is much more forgiving, doesn't burn, doesn't create holes if you have too much heat. So that's generally where we start welding. As you get more advanced, it's possible we could do thinner stuff. But a tape measure, you can pretty much read all the way down to 1/16 of an inch, which is like 16 gauge. All right, now why does that matter? Well, in order to set this machine, I need to know the thickness of my metal. Once you measure that, then we use this chart right here. And every machine I've ever come across has this chart. And what we need to do here is look at the thickness of the metal. And then there's some more charts here, depending on which type of wire and process we're doing. But to keep it easy, we're using flux core, which is the second column here. The first column is the thickness of material. The second column is what we're reading. So all I do is I go to 3/16 of an inch thickness. I look at the column number 2, and it says 4D. Now what does that mean, 4D? Well, those are the settings for the dials in the front. So if I look on the first one, which is how fast the wire is going to be pushed through the torch, it has numbers of 1 through 10. So I'm going to set that to 4 per the chart. The second dial is the voltage, which is kind of like the power. That has A, B, C, and D range. And the chart says 4D, so I'm going to put it in the D or delta range. So with those two dials, this machine is now ready to go. Make sure you close the side here. So it's all set, ready to go. Now you just need to make sure that you get it plugged in the back. Just takes a standard 110 plug. So wherever your welding station is, we'll have those plugs. And the two other things that we need, grounding clamp. Make sure this is as close as possible to the material you're welding. Sometimes actually on the opposite side is a really good place for this. If you have a nice clean steel work surface, you can clamp this onto the surface and it will create the arc that way. And then we have our torch. Now, the button on the torch is actually what initiates the arc, and it pushes the wire through at the same time. So these are very, very simple machines. Set it, start welding. The next video we'll talk a little bit about hand position, torch position with the material.